So, Spencer, our regular pre-match build-up interview. So, to start with, let's just reflect back on Saturday's game against Dorking Wanderers. A great 2-0 victory. Now you've had kind of a week to reflect on it. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, it was a gutsy, I think just about deserved. A tight game. I think you can almost sum it up. They made a mistake. Great finish from Dom. Let's not forget that. We made a mistake just before 90 minutes, and it's a fabulous save from Jack Turner. And that was almost the difference. I appreciate we got a penalty right at the end, but tight game. Mark's a good friend of mine, so I think he's a bit shocked at what we did, and I probably disagree with him that they had control pretty much at any part of the game, maybe for 5 minutes, but they weren't hurting us just because they had a bit more ball. I thought possession stats were pretty equal. We had some very good chances. Jack's had a couple of shots straight at him, hit the bar. We've had one whistle an inch over. So look, it wasn't the best quality of game, but it was an exciting game, and I'm absolutely delighted to come out the right side of it against a fabulous side, and that will be right up there. I appreciate they've got injuries, but look at the state of us. So it was a real boost, and as I said, this will be the last time we talk about that 4-game run, and to come out with 7 points from that is genuinely way beyond what I'd expected from the start of it. And we can talk about the next 4 games, which I'm happy to do. So overall, I was delighted. Didn't last long. I'm not entitled to have a good week, as we'll come on to. It didn't last long. Got to Tuesday morning before the bad news came back. But we have to enjoy it. I'm glad the fans enjoyed it. It was a great day, and Mark was brilliant on the day, and so respectful as I know he always is. So we'll move on.
Absolutely. So if we start to look ahead, then we've now got 5 games in 2 weeks, starting with the FA Trophy and Walton Hersham. As we look ahead to that, you mentioned in your previous interview that there may be some people out, trophy tied and that sort of thing. So where are we looking at in terms of the squad for Saturday?
Well, as I said, look, it's difficult because people will turn around and say being negative. But if I tell you on Tuesday morning at 10:30, I'm in a nice bouncy mood. We've had a great result at the weekend, and I get a phone call from Charlton to say that Toby Bow's done his hamstring in training. So I'm not allowed much joy. Young Teddy got concussion on Saturday. So there's another one that went out. So he's out for a number of weeks under concussion protocols. We think he might be available for Enfield. It depends how the weeks go. Toby's is not bad, but he will definitely be missing certainly this Saturday and Tuesday. And we'll come on to what I've done about that. Connor did his slight twinge on his hamstring on training on Wednesday night for us. So yeah, it's not fun. It's just truly staggering. Obviously, we signed Michael Klass on Friday for him to wake up to tell me on Saturday that he'd been ill all night and couldn't attend. I will say that we got him a game on Tuesday night at Step 4 to get his minutes. He's nowhere near match fit. So we're having a look, really. It's how we get him match fit. He's a quality player, and he's physically fit, but he hasn't really played a game for 2 months. And that's a big issue that we've got to try and overcome. So yes, he will be in the squad this weekend, but I don't want the fans or most importantly, I suppose, from the perspective of playing me, to expect too much when he hasn't played for 2 months. He's very rusty, which is totally understandable, but a good player moving forward, we hope. So we'll look at that situation. We have Amir cup tied. Teddy would have been cup tied anyway. He played for Bracknell. So yeah, it's a right royal mess. And as you say, I'm going to count the next 4 games as a group, the trophy and 3 vital league games. And just as much as I take great pride for the group to get 7 points from those 4 full-time big clubs, the next 3 league games, if we don't get points from those, will make it almost irrelevant. Arguably we'd be better off to get points against those teams than the teams we've just played. So they are just massive games. So to play teams in and around us, good clubs, great players, good managers, and they're 3 away, all 3 away, so a real challenge. But the next one is Walton, 12 straight wins. Obviously got to massive chance now of being a National South club next season. Scoring goals for fun on their home, generously call it pitch. And it's a hell of a challenge, and I've also got massive decisions to make, because the question's been asked to me on more than one occasion. Is it more important that we get through the trophy, or would you switch that for 3 points or even a point at Slough away on Tuesday night? And it's a real tough one to answer that. Real tough one to answer. I obviously want both. I know the fans want both. But two, I'm going to be generous, very difficult pitches, very close to each other, where I've got players that bluntly cannot play both games. That we certainly won't get the best out of them if we do that. So what do? We've got enough numbers. I've recalled Ben Greenwood. That could be a very short-term thing. I've discussed it at length with Ben. I've discussed it with Gosport. Gosport don't have a game this weekend. So it was an obvious thing to recall him for this weekend. It may be a short-term thing. I've told him about the Toby situation. He's happy, I understand, at Gosport. So it may be a very short thing, but we'll assess that on Monday. But it was a no-brainer to bring him back, at least for this game. And we will see where we go, but a team selection will be very last minute at Walton. Obviously, we've done all the work on them as we do for everybody. We'll come up with a shape and a plan to try and, quite frankly, upset them, because they're absolutely flying. They've got some great players. They've got a player that played 12 starts in the Championship last season. They're flying. It's the place is my local club. I've got so much time and support for what they're doing there. The owners, the support they've got in there, the manager's doing great. They're going to be in the National South. I hope I'm not, I don't think they'll be playing on that pitch. And if they are, there's going to be almighty ruckus. They won't be playing on that pitch next year in the National South, because there will be World War III with clubs on that. But that's not their fault. They are playing fantastic football. And it's a hell of a challenge. We had a close game with them. We led there last year in the FA Cup. Very different team. We lost right at the death by a goal. I'm expecting, it should be tight, but depending on what side I put out, the priority, how I manage the game, definitely I have to have a view on Tuesday, whether we're, winning 3-0, losing 3-0, tight game, obviously straight to penalties, which of course we've practiced. The trophy is a terrible competition at this early stage. Of course, it totally changes if you get near the site of Wembley. And as I said, we're probably underdogs, but we've had a great couple of weeks. So I'm going to make sure that we're being super positive. With all the injuries and everything that's going on, and can you believe it? Just this week, that's 3 players gone this week injured. I mean, I thought it was bad before. It just keeps on coming. But we'll be able to fill. I think we'll be able to fill a 5-man bench, but maybe 1 or 2 of them will only be for emergencies. If we absolutely have to put them on the park. John Anunga train, we have to decide what to do with him. We're expecting Ollie Hogburn back in a week or so. It was great to get Billy back on the pitch. Do I risk him? He'll want to play. It's so many questions, and as is usual in football, it's there's no right or wrong until it's done. We're desperate to win the game. There is absolutely no excuse for us not trying to win this game, with the possible exception of that god-awful pitch. But it's the same for both teams. I do ultimately say, please, whatever we put out, I'm touching wood, as I said, no more injuries. That will be, but what do? Do I give up on the competition and just, sign the academy and put it in there? Absolutely not. No, we will give it absolutely everything and expect to go out there and get into the next round, because we've played some decent football. We've scrapped, we've fought, we've had a really good 4-game run, and now we've got to have another really important 4-game run. Absolutely focused on. We're not having that excuse, well, we did it against them, but we couldn't do it against teams in and around us. Massive couple of weeks, as you say, but huge amount of football to play. So we're going to have to use everybody and be very careful how we do that.
It was interesting you said there that you could perceive us to be the underdogs on Saturday. Many would say Walton would be being in the league below. Kind of, why do you believe that, from your perspective, we would be the underdogs?
Well, no, it's purely on form. They've won 12 on the spin. They're 7-8 points clear in the division. We know to win 12 games at step 3 or step 4, or is an incredible achievement. Let's absolutely stand and give that every credit it's due. And they've been winning 4-0, 6-0. The bookies, not that we're allowed to go near them, will absolutely have them as red hot favourites to get promoted, and massive congratulations to it. The club is in a great place. There is the plus, it's 10 minutes from my home. So I've grown up in that area my whole life. So massive congratulations, certainly to the start of the season. It's a one-off. The one game they did lose as such a long time ago was to Chippenham. So we don't go there with fear. I'd love to go with my full side, but as I've already waffled on, I do need to think about Tuesday a little bit, and certainly during the game. But absolutely make no mistake, if we can go and beat Dorking and go and beat Maidenhead and draw as a minimum at Dagenham, and look, we were well beaten by Torquay, and rightfully I expect us to go and compete very strongly against a very good side. But there's not a lot of places between the two divisions as such, if they're top and wherever we are. And as I said, they're in a fantastic form, but they'll make a lot of it. That they can do what they want. My priority is to get through this trophy game, but also to continue, where having been in very difficult circumstances this season, to make sure that we can push away from where we are. And as I said, we've had a really good few weeks. So the fact that I can still stand here, having lost 3 more players since winning on Saturday, and go, we are going to be ultra positive. We've got this massive couple of weeks, which will have a big impact on how this next portion of the season goes. Because if we can get some points in those 3 away games, teams fighting for their lives, teams that have got very good players, then it will take a little bit of pressure off. But we know that, they're going to be 3 away games, really difficult games. Or will be, if we don't perform, if we don't do what we've done well, predominantly in the last few weeks, then we'll be right back in it. So a really big challenge, but it's exciting again, and I said, got to take a big place. We've just had a great win. I was allowed 72 hours of relative joy before I had another whack. But there we go. That's football, and we get on with it, and we look forward to it.
So just finally then, conscious that as we keep going on about, we've got 4 away games on the spin now, 1 in the trophy, 3 in the league. Having the fan support over that time is going to be crucial. And I know they've got a coach booked for Saturday. What can we tell the fans to try and get them to come behind us at every game going forward for the next 4 games away?
Look, they know the situation. They know the situation. They've been brilliant. I'll be honest, particularly away from home, because they sort of end up grouping together, so it's easier. They've been absolutely magnificent. They know what we're doing. They've seen the positivity in the last few weeks. They can, the facts don't lie with the injuries and everything that's going on, but we've still picked up 7 points in 12 games against great sides. Look, are we going to win the next 4 straight? Probably not. Can we pick up points and keep progressing? And what we will show, I'm absolutely sure, is we will put an absolute shift in. Tomorrow's a difficult one because I've got to be so mindful of what's coming up with those 2 pitches. Slough, another, can I put aged 4G that's being replaced next summer? And I'm presuming Walton's is, as they're moving. So got to be super careful. But I just want to win the football game, and that, I hope I get that part right. And, we asked some questions. I said it was a tight game last year, so I know they'll be brilliant. And they're going to be tough games, and that's exciting as well. So we'd all rather be at the other end of the table and big favourites in games. But make no mistake about it, we will do it absolutely in our power to win every game starting tomorrow.
Perfect. Well, cheers, Spencer, and good luck for Saturday.
Thanks a lot.